2.1 to 3 British Permanent Residence Examination, Medieval Wars, Plague, Political Change. 3.2 The Medieval Period 3.2.1 Wars at Home and Abroad. The period after the Norman invasion until about 1485 is known as the Middle Ages or Medieval Period. This was a time of prolonged war. The King of England was at war with Welsh, Scottish, and Irish nobles for control of the land. In Wales, England was able to establish its own rule. In 1284, King Edward I of England introduced the Rhodes Act, which brought Wales into British territory. He built huge castles such as Conwy and Caernarvon to maintain this ruling power. By the middle of the 15th century, the last Welsh rebellion had been defeated. English law and English law were raised. In Scotland, the English king was less successful. Scotland was led by Robert the Bruce in 1314, who defeated the English at the Battle of Bannockburn, and the British never invaded Scotland again. At the beginning of the Middle Ages, Ireland was an independent country. The British first sent troops to Ireland to assist the Irish king and establish their own settlements. Around 1200, the British ruled an Irish region called Pell near Dublin. Some important lords in other parts of Ireland accepted the authority of the British king. In the Middle Ages, the British king also conducted some foreign wars. Many knights participated in the Crusades, Christians in Europe, fighting for control of the Holy Land. The King of England also fought a long war with France, known as the 100 Years' War, although it actually lasted 116 years. The most famous battle of the 100 Years' War was the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. King Henry V defeated the outnumbered French army with a large army. Britain left France in 1450–60. 3.2 To plague the Normans used feudalism as a system of land ownership. The king granted land to the lord in exchange for war aid. Landlords had to recruit a certain number of workers as soldiers. Some peasants had their own land, but most were serfs. They could use the lord's land to grow food. In return, they had to work for the lord and could not move away. In southern Scotland with the same system. In Scotland and Northern Ireland, land was owned by members of the prestige family. In 1348, a disease, the plague, came to England. It was called the Black Death. 1/3 of the British population died, and a similar proportion occurred in Scotland and Wales. It was one of the worst disasters in British history. After the Black Death broke out, a smaller population meant there was a need for smaller cereal crops. At this time, there was a shortage of labor, and farmers began to demand higher wages. New social hierarchies emerged, including the emergence of landlords, later called gentlemen, who owned large tracts of land, and people who left the countryside and moved to towns. In the towns, the growth in wealth created a strong middle class. In Ireland, the Black Death killed many of Pell's men. For a time, the area controlled by the British became smaller. 3.3 Legal and political changes. In the Middle Ages, Parliament began to develop into what it is today. Its origin is the office of the king at the time, whose members included important nobles and church leaders. There was no explicit charter limiting the power of the king before 1215. During this year, King John was pressured by the nobles to agree to certain conditions. This resulted in a charter of rights called the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta established a new covenant under which the king was subject to law. It protected the rights of the nobles and limited the king's power to collect taxes or change laws. From then on, the king would need to consult and obtain the approval of the nobles before making a decision. In England, Parliament was established for the king to consult his nobles, especially when the king needed to raise funds. The number of people attending Parliament gradually increased, forming two separate factions. The nobles, the large landlords, and the bishops belonged to the House of Lords, usually knights of small. Landlords, the wealthy of the city, were included in the House of Commons. Only a small number of people were able to participate in the election of popular members. Scotland also developed a similar parliament. It has three branches: the House of Lords, the House of Commons, and the clergy. This is also when the legal system was developed. The principle that judges are independent of the government is slowly established. In England, judges developed the common law based on past legal precedents and traditions. In Scotland, the legal system developed slightly differently, and the law was codified, that is, written down.